In our spotlight, across the country, people are observing Martin Luther King Jr. today, celebrating the life and legacy of one of our nation's most iconic civil rights activists. Dr. King advocated for racial equality while leading peaceful protests, including the March on Washington, where he delivered his I Have a Dream speech. Americans have been gathering for parades and celebrations in cities, including here in D.C. as well as in Los Angeles. Our ABC News contributor and op-ed columnist for the Los Angeles Times, LZ Granderson, joins me now. So, LZ, the landmark voting rights legislation that MLK fought for could soon be gutted by the Supreme Court. How do you see his legacy, just given this moment that our country is facing?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Obviously, the nation is under fire right now. When you think about what's happening in the streets in Minnesota, when you think about the conversations surrounding Venezuela, when you think about what's happening with the conversations surrounding Greenland. And so when I think about Dr. King's legacy, I just don't think about it solely in terms of the legislation benefits of Americans who happen to be Black. I think about all of it, because that's what Dr. King fought for. And so it is a moment of reflection for Black people, yes, but it's a moment of reflection for all of us. The principles that Dr. King fought for in a nonviolent manner wasn't just about uplifting Black people for the sake of Black people, but it's about America fulfilling her promise. He famously said, I read somewhere that these sort of benefits, these rights were granted to all of us. And he was talking about the Constitution and about upholding the Constitution. That wasn't just about Black people, that was about all of us. And so this moment, this day is a time for all of us, regardless of our color, to think about that message.
And LZ, earlier today, our Kira Phillips interviewed Dr. King's granddaughter and asked her about his legacy and how it's carrying on to the younger generation. So just take a listen to this portion.
Well, I certainly feel concerned about the state in which we are going, and in terms of the status of the legacy now. I think that, unfortunately, in order for the people to wake up, I think that we have to see certain aspects of the legacy being taken away and be under attack. Before my grandfather was assassinated, he left behind a legacy. He left behind a blueprint of what needs to be done next.
Do you agree with what his granddaughter said, and how do you compare where our country is now to the aftermath of the civil rights movement?
The civil rights movement actually started before Dr. King was involved, and it continued upon his passing, and it continues to this day. It's not just about having a singular figure lead this conversation, but it's about all of us taking his example in each of our lives, whether it's challenging someone who says something that is offensive and wrong in our personal space, or speaking in front of thousands of people as he did. We all have an opportunity to continue his legacy through our example. That's the reason why we have the day of service, so that we can be of service to each other. So I absolutely understand where she's coming from in terms of a singular figure and a singular message. But this movement has been going on since the first Africans were kidnapped and landed on this land. And it will continue to happen until America fulfills her promise.
And remind us, how does Stevie Wonder play into the way that we celebrate?
Wow, not long after Dr. King was unfortunately assassinated, the great Nina Simone did a concert at Morehouse where Dr. King graduated. He was enrolled at 15. Famously, that's how brilliant he was. And she does this concert, and afterwards she does this interview. And that's where we get this iconic quote that an artist's duty is to reflect the times. So to talk about Stevie Wonder, that's exactly what he did. He took up the mantle. His famous song, Happy Birthday, was in celebration of Dr. King's birthday being a national holiday. And I think we all know how it sort of goes, happy birthday to you. But what it really did was just sort of, instead of it being a somber moment to talk about the assassination, it was a celebration of his work and his legacy. And so I'm thrilled that we're talking about Stevie Wonder, but we have so many artists today who can do what Nina Simone said, which is reflect the times. It isn't just about the 1960s. We are in a dark time right now in this country, and it's always been historically the artists, the creatives, who have helped everybody see that we can have a better life in a better way.
LZ Granderson, thank you as always.